I have some questions about something you mentioned about the image that rave culture had in its earliest onsets. Um, when I think of the origins of what festival culture is, it came from a time when raves were like in warehouses or in some house parties and deeply immersed in drug culture. What do you think pushed EDM culture from that underground up into the faces of the pop culture today?
You know, when I fell in love with electronic music, it was a big deal in Europe, and at that time, it had already evolved for many years, and you know, there was already sponsorship dollars from the likes of Heineken or Vodafone, which was the equivalent of Verizon or whatever in Europe at the
Yeah.
time. But big companies were already endorsing these events, and they were already concerts, and the DJs were already making lots of money, and rock stars. So I knew that it existed in a parallel universe, which was not North America, but the United Kingdom and Europe in general, and South America had a pretty robust scene too. So, I imagined that maybe we could be like that, and here we are today. So I think that I don't see it stopping. I see venues and events being built to cater to getting their arms around it and doing better and hosting better events with this sort of entertainment. And I see more and more dollars being spent on consuming it.
Yeah.
And I think there's just going to be more
I'm
and more.
definitely interested in the evolution that festivals, especially EDM festivals, are causing for the whole music industry. Last year, Eric and I went to Phoenix Lights, and it was a mix of EDM performers and hip-hop performers. And that's something that I think is like a crazy transition to see in my lifetime, because growing up there was like EDM like across the seas, and then in America you had the hip-hop scene, but now it's merging and becoming something new. Do you see Relentless Beats producing more and more festivals that link genres?
I think that we will produce bigger festivals that link genres possibly in the future. I think what you'll see us do is suit more genres together in the future. For instance, I think that hip hop fans would appreciate some days that were suitable for them in a very $50, $60 ticket that had an act like Travis Scott or something
Yeah.
on it, that then featured 4 or 5 hip hop supports as opposed to mixed with dance acts. Because sometimes I think that the hip hop fan looks at that dance lineup and thinks that's an expensive ticket, and maybe I don't want to see all that other stuff, and that's a 10-12 hour event, big commitment. But I'd really be into going and seeing Travis Scott and a couple supporters, Suicide Boys and a couple
Yeah.
support, or something like that.
I know that's my mindset when I think about buying a concert ticket. I look at who I'm the most interested in seeing, and then divide the price among those acts and see if it's worth it. Would I pay that much individually to see each one of them?
Absolutely. We're finding that in our events that sometimes when we invest a lot of money in a hip-hop act, they're kind of hidden amongst all of our dance music acts, and that it remaining a dance event sometimes might be the best thing. That said, we're still mixing some hip-hop acts in our events, but it's not necessarily a road to go down to just infuse them equally in a festival. It does confuse. It doesn't go off like you thought. For instance, at Gold Rush is where I really saw it. I think that was the pivotal moment. Vince Staples is such an amazing artist, and he was playing, and we had something playing on the other stage that was not nearly the investment it was, probably 1/10 in as far as a financial investment in the act or something. And Vince Staples' stage was probably 1/3 full, and the other one was overflowing. Just showed that our core consumer was interested in the dance music that was playing, not exactly Vince. And Vince, of course, was a big investment, and I think Vince, suited on his own event with other acts like him, probably would have had a much bigger audience in front of him.
So in the future, are you saying that we can maybe see festivals that have days, specific days for each genre? So like, let's say if it's a Friday, Saturday,
No, I think
Sunday
festivals
festival.
more specifically built to be specifically hip hop or
Okay.
specifically this weekend we're hosting a festival out at Rawhide. It's a reggae festival, and the
Easy
whole lineup
Roots.
is all Easy Roots. It's going on now. All the lineup is all reggae. So and music in that lane.
And so instead of like the sort of mixture, you want to make just probably like more festivals, but each festival's catered more to a specific genre.
That's right.
Okay.
I think to a group of people, so for instance, hip hop goes well with R&B, and a lot of those fans mix. But you start to get something like a really big dance act that sells 10,000 tickets, and then a hip hop act, and you start off with those two, and as you go down the list, the tastes and the distinct differences, how each one of those persons perform, and whether it appeals to someone or not, really starts to diminish as you go down the list. The EDM events seem to be suited better with more EDM, and I think that you're going to see us do more hip-hop events and more events that are tailored to specific genres and musical groups.
So we've talked about the future a lot. So if I just asked you like 10 years from now, we've already seen 10 years of Crush. If you had to predict in 10 years what the Crush Music Festival would look like then compared to like the difference it was 10 years ago to now, what do you think that would be? Do you think it would look mostly the same, or do you think that something would change dramatically?
That's a good question. If you look at the past 10 years, it'll be larger in scope, and there'll be more people interested in attending it, and but I think for the most part, people having the best days of their lives, lots of smiles, lots of dancing, and lots of enthusiasm from our core customer base. I mean, Crush tends to be one of our strongest events each and every year, and the sales this year look like it's going to be all that again.
So I've got a question about the atmosphere that Crush has since it's a Valentine's festival. Do most people show up and buy tickets if they're single, or are they going in relationships to have like a good Valentine's Day?
Both. I think it's both. It's both. There's a lot of bring your sweetheart and going with my girl, and but hey, a lot of people are single.
Which one would you recommend? If
I recommend if you're with your girl, you should bring her, and if you're with your guy, you should bring him, and if you're single, you should go too.
So your advice is just to go,
go.
huh?
Go.
It's an all-around good time for Valentine's Day.
Absolutely. It's a really good lineup this year, too. You get 7 Lions on the first day and Alesso on the second day, and the other acts on the festival are outstanding.
I definitely think that a Valentine's Day festival would be, like, amazing. There's a lot of love in today's EDM culture. Valentine's Day would be so cool to go to a festival. Who would be having a bad time? Like, that sounds great.
Somebody who just got dumped.
Ooh.
But I have a question. We were talking before the interview. We're both from Arizona, and I feel like if you're outside of Arizona, you don't really know it as a place rich with music. And if you do, it's probably, okay, it's the desert, so it has to be the country music. But in recent years, especially in the last 5 or 6, where I've been more like tuned into the music scene, it seems like rap and EDM have been coming up a lot more, especially in Arizona. Do you think it's more of an underrated state when it comes to EDM in general?
I mean, I think just that the entertainment economy has really grown in Arizona as the economy's gotten better in general, and as more people move to the state, and as EDM becomes a bigger and bigger thing across the country, and as our customer base has continued to grow, as we produce more offerings for them week in, week out, you're just going to see, I think, slow growth.
I think Arizona is like a great festival market because while there's people at Rawhide right now at a festival, there's people in other parts of the United States that are in like snow to their knees, that are colder than Antarctica, but as soon as it hits February in Arizona, it's festival season is what it feels like.
Yeah, Rawhide's an outstanding venue. They're just outside the city, and they allow us to do our thing. We've got freedom to create, make some noise, and it's very tough to find a venue within a city that will allow you to do those things.
Yeah, I think Rawhide's a really unique venue. It's so spacious. I definitely love being in the sky. Not everybody can tolerate the heat, but sunshine in the rave is perfect, You get to take your shirt off, throw water everywhere. You can really feel like a part of the crowd when you're there.